Anyway, I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. Oh well. I can do it. Welcome to the first edition of the Empire Media Politics Show. That will not be its actual name, but we don't know what to call it yet, so deal with it. I'm your host, Dorf. Normally you can catch me over on the Empire Media's sister channel, the Major Sports Network, in various capacities and writing and podcasting over there. I'm joined, as this will be the regular crew, by Empire Media founder Adam Hernandez, and also co-host of XCast, which will be on directly after this on the same place as you're watching this now, Josh Houselander. Should probably put those cameras up. Go around the room. That's Josh. Say hi.
Still Josh.
And then there's Adam. Say hi. Wave to the people, Adam. Or don't wave. Just put your hand up. Whatever. What we hope to accomplish here is not your traditional politics podcast. What we're going to hope to avoid is we're not going to do news of the day. We're not going to sit here and get to partisan bickering where you don't get anything accomplished. We're not trying to have the studio segment show where you got 30 seconds to get your point across and then it's on to the next thing. We're trying to go for an hour, 2 topics, and hopefully that allows us to go in depth and actually maybe accomplish something. So just a little bit on our backgrounds. Our orientation is on purpose. As the host of the show, I have my...
I thought... Wait.
No, I'm just doing brief.
I thought... Okay, go ahead.
I'm just doing it briefly.
Go ahead.
Adam, you would describe as left of center. I'm a fence-sitting, good-for-nothing, middle, independent person, and Josh is our right of center.
Josh is the brush my hands of any responsibility of anything libertarian, right?
No.
And I'm the not good for nothing fence sitter, and Adam's a communist. So.
So wait a second. Josh is a fascist. You're a fence sitter. And
No.
I'm a communist?
No.
Okay.
Josh is in the bottom right hand of the political spectrum.
Oh,
That is true. That's the first thing that's been said about me that is true. That part is true.
Bottom
Absolutely.
right. Remember, it's not just a two-dimensional, or it's a two-dimensional spectrum, not a one-dimensional spectrum. Hell, we can even entertain arguments for 3- and 4-dimensional spectrums, but that's for another show.
I like where you're going with this too, Dorf, because I think this show is gonna focus a lot. And we don't know yet, but we're just starting out. We're just throwing it out there. But I think this show is gonna focus a lot on the ideology and the philosophy of points.
Yeah, we're not going to sit
instead
here
of the how it pertains to a particular issue that's going on that particular day.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we hope to accomplish here with this show here. So tonight's first topic is going to actually be sort of it was bubbled back to the surface this past week with hashtag shut up and dribble. LeBron James, I believe in his
thank you, Laura Ingraham.
Yeah, his media availability for the NBA All-Star Game was asked a question about politics, and he gave an answer. Laura Ingraham on her Fox News show, I believe, which is 9. Is she in the 9 o'clock hour Eastern?
I don't know. I don't watch that garbage.
She's got a primetime Fox News show.
I don't know. I don't have cable.
We're not in the demographic that would watch it anyway. None of us are.
Josh is.
I used to watch a lot of cable news. I don't have cable anymore.
Anyway.
I did away with it. Waste of money.
But you're not over 50.
Not yet. I'm working on it.
You're not an over 50 guy. So, came and went on a pretty good sized rant about how, to summarize, shut up and dribble. You're an athlete. We didn't ask you for your opinion. And we're not going to necessarily talk about specifically let's call it the beef between Laura Ingraham and LeBron James, but the bigger idea: should athletes or celebrities, in more general sense, be leading political thinkers in the public arena, or is the backlash out of line, deserved, or otherwise? So I don't know how we're really good. We're kind of really just winging this.
Yeah, well, and hey,
I don't know how you want to do it.
I do want to say to you guys I thought this was a great first topic. I didn't choose it, you guys did, but I thought this was a great first topic because it's a great segue because you guys are more known for being on a sports show.
Hell, Adam and I do 2 or 3 hours every Monday night doing sports.
Don't bring up the majors live. Don't bring it up.
Why can't we bring up the majors live?
Because I know it's a soft spot for you.
Oh, that's true.
He was a former host.
Yeah, that's true. I was fired from the Majors Live, and Dorf got my job. So
it wasn't my idea. It was his. He's the boss.
But that's okay. I've forgiven Dorf. I haven't forgiven Adam. But I
you guys got another show instead. So you weren't burdened with having to talk majority sports.
The Majors Live is not only just as good; it's actually better with Dorf and Sean. They focus more on sports. They have a better sports knowledge, and quite frankly, when I was on the Majors Live, it was veering too much from sports into stuff like this, which is why this is a good, and
that's why also the new thing with the X, what you guys do on XCast is also a better fits your guys' interests and skill sets as well. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's blend here is kind of like you said, Josh, the more the philosophy, and we may tie it into a current event, but that will not be the focus of the discussion. So my proposed format, we're going to try this out tonight, is we're going to define the topic. If we have anything politically ambiguous definitions where a specific term or phrase may mean different things to different sides of the spectrum, we'll come up with a common definition that we will use for the episode, whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, and we may get into that, but we're going to at least come up with common definitions so we're arguing about the same thing. And I'd like to give everybody like a minute and a half, 2-minute opening statement on their position on the issue, and then we'll brawl. So, on this issue, let's go with Adam. Let's go with you first. Just give us your brief thoughts on the topic as a whole. We're not necessarily arguing anything specific yet, but state your opening policy position, sir.
Well, when it comes to this particular idea, I don't think anybody would necessarily be in the. I don't think anybody would disagree that athletes, musicians, movie stars should be at the absolute forefront of political thinking in this country. I mean, movie stars are movie stars, athletes are athletes, politicians are politicians. We don't pay athletes to make policy in this country, just like we don't pay politicians to go and play basketball or act in movies. And again, I know there's exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, I think it's unfair to go and say that that athletes shouldn't give their opinion, especially when they're asked to give their opinion. Last time I checked, LeBron James was a citizen of the United States of America. I'm sure he pays taxes in this country.
Quite a lot of them.
Quite a lot of it. And it seems like it's his right to express a viewpoint, especially when asked.
Okay.
Whether that be politics, what his thoughts on the weather are, whatever. Doesn't matter. He is a citizen of this country, and last time I checked, citizens of this country, no matter what they do, can have a political position on something.
Okay, Josh, what's yours?
Yeah, listen, I'm torn on this in a lot of ways because, of course, yeah, I'm a huge First Amendment guy, huge freedom of speech guy. Is LeBron James or any other athlete or musician or movie star entitled to their opinion? Of course they are. Of course they are. They get to say whatever they want. Definitely, absolutely. And there is a double standard here when people say, "Oh, why are they talking about this?" When the answer to that question is, "Well, they were asked." They actually were, in this particular case, they were actually asked their opinion, and they gave it. But listen, I can see why this annoys people. And the idea of throwing a hashtag "shut up and dribble" after a comment, well, quite frankly, that's just as much an exercise of a First Amendment right as them talking. And me personally, I would find it very refreshing if certain athletes, movie stars, musicians, if when they were asked certain things about policy, certain things about politics, if they said, "Oh, hang on, I play basketball for a living. Why do you care what I? What do you? Why do
I
you
don't
care?
know or I don't care."
Yeah, like just
why
hey, I got my opinions. I'm not a dummy. I got my opinions, but who cares? But the reason why I think this upsets people, and I think this is really important, the reason this upsets people so much is the fact that there's nothing in the First Amendment that says everyone gets a podium and a microphone and gets to tell the world how they feel. So when the best basketball player in the world gets asked a question and he gets to spout off on his opinions, then the best plumber in the world, or the great plumbers, or the great painters, and the great Walmart cashiers are thinking, man, I'm really good at my job too. I'm really good at my job too. How come I don't get a say? I'm smart, and truth is too, when it comes to education, are these people educated for this? I mean, in LeBron James' case, he certainly isn't.
Well, okay.
And hey, one thing I've said this many times on many different shows. Some of the smartest people I've ever met don't have a high school education, and some of the dumbest people I ever met, I met in grad school. So I'm not saying that necessarily matters, but they certainly aren't trained to have this. And then the one last thing before I throw it to you, Dorf, is something that I like to refer to as the rich conundrum. It seems to me that the same segment of society that likes to crucify the rich as, oh my God, how dare the rich say this, want to go to a guy like LeBron James, who quite frankly, although he might be an intelligent dude, quite frankly, he has no clue how most of us live, because he's been filthy rich from playing a game since he was 18 years old. So this is kind of like, to me, it's like the rich conundrum. Is he talking because, oh no, athletes should be allowed to talk? No, really, he's allowed to talk because he's rich. And technically, that's a big role reversal, because the Laura Ingrams of the world, if they were going off their stereotype, they should respect that. And the people who are backing up LeBron's point should be saying, oh, just another rich jerk telling us how to live our lives. Easy for you to say. You've been a millionaire since you were 18 years old.
Okay, so believe it or not, I even have a third perspective to add here. I believe both of you have very valid points on both sides of this. I do not disagree with LeBron James's ability to speak and let alone answer a question. It's not like he went up in a post-game presser and grabbed the mic and said, yo, I got something to say.
Mm-hmm. True.
But you've entered the dirty, dirty world of politics. Politics is constant mudslinging. Don't be surprised. This sort of, player from, left, political pundit of left of center says something, right of center reacts angrily. Happens all the damn time. Mm-hmm. Hell, there's whole industries made from that. That's the reason cable news fucking exists in its current form.
Absolutely.
You've entered the arena willingly. Don't be surprised when people come after you. Yes, LeBron, you are more than willing to talk. You're more than able to. That is your right as an American. But at the same time, you've now entered the dirty game of politics. Don't be surprised when people punch back, for lack of a better term.
You're absolutely right. No, when you say something, you open yourself up to this new level of criticism.
You do. And you know what? No one comes out bad here. Laura Ingraham gets her ratings because that the way she attacked it plays well with her key demographics. Mm-hmm. LeBron James wins over more hearts and minds of the younger people, which generally speaking his line of thinking plays better with. And we all go home happy tomorrow because it's already not an issue again. So
the thing is, though, is when you look at, if Laura Ingraham is towing the company line, if she is on board with what Fox News completely does, then she is a hypocrite. Because you go and look at,
never said she wasn't.
You go and look at, I'm not implying that you were saying that she wasn't a hypocrite. But I mean, you go look at Chris Long outlined all of this perfectly.
Oh yeah,
he outlined it perfectly.
We don't want to hear from celebrities. Well, here's every time you've had a celebrity on.
Fox News has been in the business of putting the likes of Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, Chuck Norris, the guy from one of the guys from Duck Dynasty.
He has his own internet TV show now, by the way.
Okay, I'm sure he does. And I mean, I could go on from there. But
The left does this as well too. No, they definitely all do.
No, that's fine, but I'm not implying that we shouldn't have those guys on there. It was Laura Ingram's position where it seemed like she was saying that, oh, you're not in politics, you're not one of these guys, you shouldn't speak. When is Kid Rock any more qualified to talk about the state of this country?
He did file paperwork to run for Senate.
Yeah, and thank God that didn't go through.
Didn't go anywhere, yeah.
But is he any more qualified to talk about this stuff than LeBron James is, or George Clooney, or whoever?
I agree with you, Adam. I do. I believe I do not want to hear. I could care less about the opinions of Kid Rock, Ted Nugent, Sean Penn, George Clooney. Actually, then some of them kind of make the transition.
Chuck Norris is a different thing, though. I don't want to piss off Chuck Norris.
Yeah, no,
you don't want to lose your head.
Do you guys recall what Mike Huckabee? I know you're not a Mike Huckabee fan, but do you guys recall what Mike Huckabee said? It was funny what he said when they brought this point.
That'd be a first. Go ahead.
No, they brought this point up to him, about well, you had Chuck Norris on stage with you, and is he really qualified to make political statements? And Mike Huckabee's response was, I actually agree with you. He's not qualified to do it, but he was standing right behind me, and that guy could roundhouse kick me from anywhere on that stage. So I wasn't going to say it then. So I mean, I it's kind of funny. Listen, I don't care so much.
Ironically enough, he had John Voight on the other day too.
Yeah.
So guys, I want to kind of steer this in another direction. We've talked the specifics of this situation. Let's talk in more general terms. What do there's a very, very modern, I don't know if it's necessarily a modern feeling, but it's more come to my attention recently that you have a platform, therefore you should use it as a public figure to affect the social change or shape the social interactions of your country or your space, let's call it. In whatever way you see fit, because you have that platform. I now want to discuss whether that is a good idea for society as a whole, or something that should be encouraged. Yes, I would agree with Josh on this. I don't know Adam's feelings on this. Free speech absolutist. Everybody has the right to say it. Anything, when it comes to political speech, they have the right to anything and everything.
And if people,
but at the same time,
can
do
have
you
a
want
press
to be
conference,
your
right? And anyone can have a press conference and say whatever they want. And if people are dumb enough to show up, that's on them, right?
So
just the problem is when Joe Schmo has a press conference, nobody shows up.
What I want to kind of discuss here next is just because we have that right, should we allow as society or encourage as society people to let's call it of the celebrity, not necessarily a political mind perspective, to be ideological and social thought leaders? Yes, they're entitled to their opinion. Yes, they have the platform, they can use it, but should we be, as a society, applying any weight behind it?
I say no, none whatsoever.
Fair.
I listen. You can say what you want, and again, like I said, if you want to have a press conference and people actually want to show up and listen to you, that's awesome. Good for you. You might be eloquent. You might make a good point. But actually, not only do I think that athletes, musicians, and movie stars in particular, not only do I think their opinion shouldn't be worth more than the average Joe's, I actually will go further and say I think it should be worth less, simply because they don't live in the real world. These people, and God bless them for this. I'm not somebody that shames rich people or shames somebody that does anything for a living, but God bless them. They get to do something for a living that we all dream of. They don't actually have to live in our world.
Correct your argument. They're out of touch with reality.
Correct.
Okay.
This is what I think. Yeah, they're, you are part of the 1% that actually grew up playing a game that a ton of people grew up playing, and you actually were skilled enough and amazing enough and lucky enough, because there's some luck involved in it too, to be seen by the right people and to now make millions of dollars playing a game. A game that, although I'm a sports fan, it's a game, and I find it to be pretty worthless in the grand scheme of things. And same with musicians. musicians, God, I love music. Huge music fan. But
hell, you guys host a music podcast?
Yeah, no, we host a music podcast called The Loud State. I love doing it. I love listening to music every day of my life. But, man, I was in a band when I was in high school. I would have loved if somebody heard my band and thought, hey, you guys are decent, and gave us a record deal, and I never had to worry about how my bills were going to get paid ever again. You know, that would have been awesome. I've acted in some dumb internet type things. I was married to a B-movie actress at one point who didn't ever quite make it. Had a couple of low-paying gigs, and then realized, like, looks like I'm gonna have to go get a real job. But had these panned out, they would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to do that for a living, but it didn't. We had to go join the real world, get real jobs, move on, raise real families. And so, yeah, I actually think that their opinion is not only worth not more than their average person's, I think it's worth less.
Josh,
but this is a catch-22, though, because look who's president of the United States.
I would like to... I don't necessarily say that it's not worth more, but it shouldn't be taken as a representative sample. That's the only... I like where you're coming from here. That would be my only... It's not that it's necessarily worth more, but it's not necessarily representative of the thoughts, feelings, and sentiments of the country as a whole. It should not be gauged to... as such. Unfortunately, you're seeing that a lot in the modern discourse, specifically guided, let's call it, by the mainstream media, that these opinions should matter and et cetera, but even though they're, like you said, not representative of the larger country as a whole. And you can even argue, and I'm sure we'll have this argument, isn't healthy for the American society or the American culture as a whole to have those as the leading opinions. And you've been kind of quiet. What you got here?
I think I tend to agree more with your take on it, Dorf, as opposed to Josh. Sorry, Josh.
Oh, fine.
I know you're my boyfriend and everything, but
Adam and I were referred to as boyfriends because we agreed on a social media post just like an hour ago. Just like an hour ago, an hour and a half. Something like that.
I think. I mean, what you were saying, Dorf, as far as it not being representational as a whole, as for society as a whole in this country, I can get on board with that more so. But when it comes to athletes or actors, actresses, whatever, talking about this stuff, I think people need to make a personal choice in terms of what they want to take from it. Much like the news. People watch the news. People like to harp on the news. People need to take some of their own responsibility, though, and figure out, is that something I can agree with? Is that something that I see?
I wouldn't even necessarily say is it something I can agree with, but is it factually true?
Fair enough.
I don't disagree with that.
And even if it's factually true and it's against, your worldview or your ideology or your mindset, if it's factually true but you just disagree with, let's say you agree on a problem but you disagree on solutions, that's okay.
Well, I don't want somebody to totally discredit something. I don't want
because it came out of the mouth of a celebrity.
Exactly, and I don't want somebody to totally discredit something just because it came from CNN or Fox News or NBC or whatever. I think people need to listen to it. I think people need to be open-minded enough to listen to it, analyze it, and then go from there. Is that something that they want to accept as reality, or is it something they want to call bunk on? Then go ahead and make that decision, but make that decision based on whatever. Based on, as Josh said earlier in this, I know we're kind of doing radio for two right now, but have it be based on something that is, I don't know if logical is the right word for it, but
reason, something
like that.
I don't disagree.
The two-word phrase that kind of objective truth, based on objective truth, not this whole concept that's kind of come out in the modern discourse of have your own truth. I heard that come out of the mouth of Oprah Winfrey a couple weeks ago, and I about ripped all my hair out.
Man, Oprah 2020.
Do you know what's something
that vote?
Do you know what's something that I?
What's her policy platform? Don't care. You got a celebrity elected by the Republican Party, so let's do one from the Democrats.
Exactly. There's something I think that is really important too that I think you guys were kind of about to touch on, and that's that. Listen, everyone should have their opinions. Okay, everyone should have their own bias too. Bias isn't bad. Every intelligent person has bias. If you don't have bias,
you have a brain. You don't have a computer in your head.
Exactly. So it's not necessarily bad, but if you have a viewpoint, and I feel like this is a problem that a lot of people, especially in America, have that they can't do, you should be able to acknowledge that someone who has a viewpoint differing from yours makes a good point every once in a while. You should be able to listen to somebody from the other side and every once in a while differentiate between, hey, you know what? That was a good point. That was a good point. I still disagree with it, but that was a good point. There are good points to be made on the other side, and you can then spend the other 80% of the time going, that's stupid. Yeah, no, you're wrong. That's fine. Everyone's going to do that from time to time.
I think most of I'm going to wrap this up with, so we can get on to the next topic and kind of keep on schedule here. I think the modern discourse, especially public, would be so much less divisive and so much more productive if people got back to agreeing with common definitions on things, and had, like, to your point, be willing to acknowledge the other side has good ideas or have identified the same problems as you, and your argument is over solutions, or maybe whether or not it's a problem at all.
If only government would work like that.
Well, the only problem is it contains human beings, and that won't happen.
You guys sound like Padme and Anakin right now from Attack of the Clones.
Do we really?
Yeah.
Can I be Anakin?
No, you're Padme.
Ah, damn.
Well, you at least get to be Darth Vader, even Overlord of the Empire in the end.
Yeah.
I'm Padme.
Yeah.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
I get to be that. Cool.
Yeah. It's just.
This is how liberty dies.
Thunderous
applause.
You know what? Are we moving on, or can I make a quick point?
Go ahead.
This is something that. No, I'll try to make it quick. But
you got 30 seconds.
This is starting now. This is something that I know Adam will probably disagree with, and although I'm the one that said I don't want to hear from these celebrities and things, I feel like there is a different tier of celebrity when it comes to these things too. We brought up LeBron James, Kid Rock. Ben Affleck was one I was going to say. I don't know if I actually said it out loud. That these guys are like, I really don't want to hear from you. And it's nothing against those guys, because I actually think they're talented people I just named off that I actually like in their
craft, that would just
right,
make them
no,
famous.
they are. But then there is a different tier of these guys, and I'll try to throw some in from either side. You got the Dennis Miller, the Bill Maher, the Ted Nugent, who Adam brought up, and who's somebody else?
Michael Moore.
Whoopi Goldberg. We'll throw her in. Now, these are people that I want to count in these that they're annoying to me, those people that I just named off, but they are at least people who have been making that transition into a political mind
deeper than surface.
Ted Nugent's been doing this for 35 years. So agreeing with him, or disagreeing, but those that agree with Ted Nugent on things, it's not like he came out yesterday with these opinions. He's been harping on this for 35 years. Whoopi Goldberg was harping on it for 35 years, and then they said, let's put her on The View. Let's give her a show. And same with like Bill Maher and Dennis Miller made that transition from comedian to comedian that talks about politics. So I feel like there is a kind of a distinction even amongst the celebrity, if you will.
No, I don't totally disagree with that. I think that I think that you're right in that perception that there are celebrities out there that have made a career out of this more so than somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I don't totally disagree with you. But
okay,
cool.
Here we are.
We haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah, I know. We made it through one topic
number one.
No one's dead or bleeding, at least. Adam just grabbed some scissors. All right. Next topic. We're gonna. This is more of a kind of a compare and contrast segment. Parliamentary systems versus like congressional democracies. To summarize, I know Josh, this was your topic suggestion.
Actually,
Give us the ground rules here.
It was actually Adam's topic discussion, but it was something we discussed.
Sorry, I
no,
No,
okay.
I asked. I think
Give
what
the
it
proper
was.
person credit.
What it was. No, is one night after the XCast, I asked Josh. I'm like, what are the big differences between Parliament and Congress? And we started talking about it from there. But it was on Josh's list, so go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is, I think this is cool because a lot of people like to throw it out there because this is a big topic where the grass is always greener on the other side. You always look to their system and say, oh, why can't we have that? Because when you look at a congressional versus a parliamentary, one of the things that guys like me will say a lot is that in a congressional system like the one we have, in a two-party system, and people will say like, oh no, it's because we turned it into a two-party system. No, truth is the United States was always a two-party system. There's always been third parties and small parties, and from time to time, one of those third parties has risen up and dethroned one of the top parties and then become one of the two-party systems. But it was always a two-party system. Okay, there were, Federalists versus Democrat
And
Republicans.
I would argue that
Democrat Republicans versus Democrats, Democrats versus Whigs, Democrats versus Republicans, and it's sat there since 1860, basically.
And I would argue in any sort of representative government, whether it's democracy or republic or whatever, the two-party system is the logical end state. It's where it ends up, because in order to govern or gain a consensus, you have to coalition build, and eventually you'll end up with only two parties left standing, and that's the logical end state. And whether that's good, bad, or otherwise, I don't think that's not what we're trying to achieve right here. We'll talk about that another time. It's on the list.
Sure.
But I would argue that the two-party system is a logical, rational end state of representative government.
I talk to people a lot who, I talk to a lot of people who are trying to be in parts of third parties and the Libertarians of the Green Party and these other areas, and they'll always say, oh, we need a third party. I say, not necessarily. We actually just need two better parties. We need better.
And a third party can be a tool to achieve that.
It can be. In fact, it's the only way to do it, really. If people say, oh, the Libertarian Party needs to grow, if the Libertarian Party actually grows to a significant thing, or if the Reform Party would have been successful, then it would have most likely dethroned either the Republicans or the Democrats, one of those two parties. Most likely. Of course, anything can happen. There's nothing in the Constitution that says there has to be two parties. But where this sucks, to use a term, is that, in a parliamentary system, if, when the Libertarians or the Green Party or a smaller party get 10% of the vote, well, then they get 10% of the seats. So that's pretty cool. That gives you an incentive to actually vote for that third party because, well, you don't have to win it all. You can
your interests will still get catered to.
Right. You will gain some seats. And so then you ask the question, well, pretend there was, let's use the Reform Party instead of Libertarians or Green. So the Reform Party made that push, in the 90s. Say if the Reform Party had 20%, which Ross Perot did get 19% in the presidential election. If the Reform Party were to get 20%, now the Republicans hold 40% of Congress, and the Democrats hold 35%, and the Reform Party holds 20%, and then 5% is split up between the Libertarians and the Greens and the American taxpayers or something. Now, who is the most powerful party in Congress? One could argue that it is the Reform Party, because to establish a coalition, to establish 50%...
All you can do is winning them over.
Yes. So now the Republicans are going to try to get the Libertarian or the Reform Party votes, and the Democrats are going to try to get the Reform Party votes. They will inevitably... They can't control the government, but they will inevitably go to one of these two sides. But before they do that, they're going to ask for concessions. And which of these two parties is then going to concede parts of their platform to create the coalition government? So they're going to go to Republicans and say, hey, yeah, we'll be with
board,
you.
You know, we'll be on board with you if you give us this,
But
this, and this.
you got to back off on taxes. Got to back off on some of this stuff. How about a flat tax? How about this? How about that? Or they go to the Democrats and say, hey, we'll go with you, but Second Amendment's a Second Amendment. You going to ease up on that or not? Now, at that point, I was looking at it more from as if that was the Libertarian Party was big.
The third party in question.
The third party in question, because the Reform Party never really established a
concrete
legitimate
policy platform. Yeah.
Right. So I at that point I kind of switched gears on it. But now, like I said, the grass is always greener on the other side. So what about now you're in the parliamentary system? Oh, that's cool, right? Yeah, my Green Party got 6% of the vote. We got 6% of the seats. My, what in England, the two big ones right now are Labor and Conservative.
Yep.
It used to be Liberal and Conservative. The Liberal Party still exists. So, my Liberal Party... The
Liberal Party represents, I believe, something like 12%.
Right. And that used to be the bigger party than the Labor Party.
Bigger than Labor. Labor was the third party.
Right. And so these are switched over, but now where something gets lost there is you no longer have that congressman, that representative that represents
your area,
your little area. So now if you're and here in the United States, we love our policy votes. There's a lot of people out there who vote maybe on a lot of things, but their key thing is, hey, I'm very pro-life.
Single issue voters, is what I'm say.
And maybe they're not even single issue voters, but they have one thing that is
non-negotiable.
Right. And that kind of gets thrown out the window in a parliamentary system. You don't get to pick and choose so much. You really kind of have to, although you have more parties to choose from now, you're much more beholden to that specific party and what that party says.
But that's what I was going to say.
And you can't be an independent. Really, you can say you are, but there's really not.
But you vote more towards, like you were saying, is you vote for party more so than you necessarily vote for a person.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And you kind of know who you're voting for in your particular area, but it really doesn't get shined through that way.
How the executive is picked, or
it's picked by the head of that particular party.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and that varies from parliamentary.
Well, and that's going to be, and usually that's known to before that party will become
this
become
is who
in power.
We plan on putting forward.
Exactly.
We win.
Exactly.
For example, Canada has direct voting on the Prime Minister, whereas the UK doesn't. UK, whoever is the in control of the leading party in their parliament, then appoints their leader to the Prime Minister position. Whereas,
much like the Congress of ours, it'd almost be like if the Speaker of the House was then the president also
as well, yeah.
And then their cabinet is selected from ministers of parliament as well.
Yeah, correct.
And then you have a thing like France, where France actually has a prime minister and a president. Israel does as well. They have both, where, in Israel, the president's more of a ceremonial
figurehead, yep.
But they do have some veto power. But really, when they veto it, all that does is then send it to, I guess what you'd say in American standards is kind of their version of a Supreme Court. They can veto it, but the veto can only go through. The veto can only go through if it's proven to be against the Constitution of Israel. Where France and England doesn't. Their constitution is the Magna Carta, and it's ever changing.
Well, they don't have a firm constitution. It's just common law. It's just based on precedent. Everything we've written in since the Magna Carta to now, that's it. There is no founding document.
If you wanted to read the entire Magna Carta, you'd pretty much have to start now, and that would be what you did for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
it's been going since 1215.
So if Josh was living in London, he'd be carrying a copy of the Magna Carta around in his pocket.
Couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. You'd have to get pull a trailer behind him.
Yep, it's true. It's true. You can't just pull out that little pocket constitution I have and slap it on the table when you're in England. Doesn't work that way. And the thing is, they don't have solidified rights. There's no Bill of Rights there.
Rights come from... Right. Well, and then
the rights can be taken away or given, or it changes.
Discretion. Yeah. Great topic for another time.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
So I think we've thoroughly explained Parliament. I still want to do a cursory overview of the congressional system. Do you want to do that, Adam, or I can?
Can I throw a trivia question out?
Sure, go ahead.
First country to have a parliamentary system ever.
Don't know.
Okay. Keep in mind, I mean, we already said that England was
1215.
Was there anyone before them? Adam?
Are you going to count? Are you going to count Rome and Greece in that?
No.
Okay.
Just a little bit before. It's not England. But
wait, are you talking about a little bit before England or a little bit before? Okay, I thought you were
first
saying a little bit more.
country to have a parliamentary system.
Don't know.
Hold on. Oh, damn.
Oh,
Iceland.
Iceland.
I was going to say Iceland.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I stole it from you. Yeah, Iceland actually first parliamentary
Didn't
system.
know that.
Yeah.
Silly Vikings got all civilized before the English did.
Yeah, it wasn't much before late 1100s or so.
Okay. Cool. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Smarter every day. So, Adam, do you want to do that overview, or should I?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So, congressional system. So, the hallmark of a parliamentary system is essentially two branches of government. And they check each other. That being the judicial and the legislature, where the head of the legislature is the executive.
Wait, you're talking about the congressional or
parliamentary.
Parliamentary.
The congressional system is a three branch system where the executive is an independent branch, elected separately. Still has a Congress or a Parliament House or whatever you want to call it, an elected representative body, an executive that is elected in some fashion, and a court that all check each other in their own independent way. There's a million iterations throughout the world, not literally, you know what I mean, of a congressional system. You see it all over the place. But we'll specifically, going forward, mostly reference the United States, not only because that's where we're at, but that's the one we know best. So, and most of the congressional systems around the world, I would argue, are modeled in the image of the United States. So if we make generalities about it, I think it's the best way we can.
United States, being one of the younger countries in the world, has one of the oldest constitutions.
Correct.
I mean, France is a much older country, but their constitution has been revamped, quite a few times since the French Revolution.
Correct.
Our constitution has been amended,
and that's one thing about something that a country whose governmental system is established by constitution. The United States is very, very rare in the fact that there's a peaceful transition of power, and every time power transitions, the Constitution doesn't get ripped up and rewritten to suit whoever came to the top and whatever means they came to the top in. So, just going forward, Josh, I know now that we kind of have definitions established, what's a couple, like you said, grass is greener concepts about a parliamentary system compared to a congressional system that you'd like to highlight?
Just the basic idea that you have a potential for a power switch. The potential is much greater for a power switch and for the uprising of new ideologies, new
Without
ideas.
bloodshed.
Right. New ideologies, new parties, full new parties coming through that may or may not have different ideas that are drastic. Because a lot of times, we mentioned the Labour Party and the Liberal Party. And
there's even a fourth that has seats, the UK Independence Party.
The Green Party has in the past as well, which
Labor,
doesn't have
Labor in England currently. Labor absorbed them, but
the which is a big deal too, because that's how some of these smaller parties get absorbed, but they typically get absorbed by changing some form of policy within that party. Where when the Libertarians, for instance, in the U.S. come out, a lot more than 3% of the people in the country agree with a lot of what the Libertarians say, but it's viewed as a wasted vote. Why are you going to vote for this party? You're throwing away your vote. Come on, we all know there's two parties. So without that opportunity to grow, those ideas get sidelined.
Fair. And to your point, when you get back to people in parliamentary systems can vote their values, vote their conscience. Whereas people in congressional systems, where like we've established the end state is a two-party system, you have to tactically vote. And you're right. Voting for the Libertarian Party in the United States is effectively a wasted vote. You can have a sense of moral superiority by potentially voting for the Libertarian Party, but it's not your vote in a national election will do jack shit. If anything, it'll more likely harm the candidate out of the two major parties that you more closely identify with.
Very
taking
true.
a vote from them.
Now, for instance, I voted Libertarian in the last election. Reason being, did I think Gary Johnson was going to be president? No. Was it a full protest vote? Also no. Because the only thing we really had to go for as libertarians was, and this is something that is somewhat parliamentary-esque about our specific system, is that if a small party can get 5% of the vote, then they then will receive federal funding and federal documentation like the other parties do. So if you could just swing the 5%, well then you got a much better chance of maybe next time getting 20%.
You do, but
and
at
then,
the same time you fucked your own interests for the next
yeah, but
cycle.
if your interests are not being relayed by either candidate at all, which I felt in the last election, I wasn't going to vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. But I still care, and I thought, well, this is what I'm fighting for, is 5% of the libertarian vote. And we didn't get it.
Wasn't it partly based too, Josh, on the hopes of a contested election and maybe throwing it to the House and maybe somehow
yes,
getting Gary
Mitt
Johnson
Romney as your president?
Yes, it was. I didn't really have high hopes for that, but that should be the goal. I mean, that should be the goal of that election. The way our system's set up, you wouldn't be able to have Mitt Romney.
Oh,
because
that's
you
right.
do have to have...
You did have to be on the ballot.
You do have to have an electoral vote. You can actually get 30% of the vote, technically, and not be eligible for voting in the runoff, in the congressional runoff, because you didn't win any states. For instance, Ross Perot, although he got 19%,
didn't win any states.
He was not. If he would have sent that to the House, which some people thought, it's a chance he could send it to the House. Had that gone to the House, he would not have been eligible. Where technically you could get 7% of the vote and be eligible if you won a state.
True.
And what we were saying,
Nebraska's case, a congressional district.
Well, and what? Yeah. What exactly? And
if you were smart, you would Gary Johnson. That's what you should have never left Nebraska.
No, Josh actually outlined it perfectly, and I thought Josh, if he should have been Gary Johnson's campaign manager, because the way that Josh laid it out was, Evan McMullin would take Utah, Gary Johnson would take New Mexico, Jill Stein would go out east and start campaigning in New England,
Maryland,
or Maryland, something like that. And if you're able to get some of those individuals to take those states, just a couple of those states, with Hillary and Trump fighting out the rest, then it would have gone to a contested election. And you're right, you're absolutely right, Josh. I mean, that's what third parties in this country generally need to do. They need to throw a Hail Mary and hope that they can get a deflection in the end zone via the contested election, because there's no way in hell they know it too, that they're going to go and win straight up an electoral college vote. So
you got to do it the right way. And this is something that third party candidates, although it was never actually fully successful, it was close to successful in American history. They used to know this. They used to actually know how to do this. When Strom Thurmond ran as a Dixiecrat, he didn't try to win the whole election. He was trying to take it to the House. And that didn't happen.
He had a shot.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Now, and that was the thing, that imagine if Evan McMullin, a true conservative Republican, had managed to win Utah. They're 8, 9 electoral votes? I don't know. I knew at the time it doesn't matter, whatever it was. And Hillary and Trump are that close that neither of them attain the 270 electoral votes, and now it goes to the House. 6. Okay, so that's rough. If that were to happen, and now the Republicans who control the House are voting, they have an opportunity to vote for Hillary's out. She's not winning this. They have the opportunity to either make Donald Trump the president, or
somebody who
there's actually a conservative Republican on this
that's eligible.
We can vote for him if we want.
Oh, just imagine the clusterfuck that.
And if it's split, you got Democrats over there whispering, you guys better make a decision, because if you don't, we're all going to vote for Hillary. So you better vote for the same dude. I'm just saying.
No, that's
you better vote for the same guy. And what's weird is it doesn't go by House representative; it goes by state.
Each state only gets one vote.
Right.
Yeah.
So that dude from Montana,
38 of the legislators are Republican or split.
Yeah. So that dude from Montana gets a vote. He's in the catbird seat. His vote is his vote. Those 45 from California, they get a vote amongst themselves for their one vote. So that's rough. Now, if Gary Johnson took New Mexico and Evan McMullin took Utah, Evan McMullin's on the outside looking in, because only the 3 top electoral vote getters are eligible.
Yeah. New Mexico's smaller.
Yeah. So that's
all right.
that.
Final thoughts here, guys. We're going to wrap this up. We've been going about an hour here. Just want to, wrap this up at all? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to?
No, other than I'm excited about this show. Dorf, Adam, thanks for bringing me on. And I'm excited about this show. I'm really looking forward to some fun ideological discussions and a place where we can talk about politics and talk about policy and issues without it being, super, super partisan and controlled by one side or the other. I think people crave that out there. I hope people hear this show.
People don't want to hear news, generally speaking. They want to have their opinions reinforced, previously held opinions. Adam, I'm going to pitch it to you first before I put a bow on this thing. What's your closing thoughts for this week?
Closing thoughts for this week. I'm just going to say that we weren't able to touch on. I just want to say this: we weren't able to touch. I'm not going to go ahead and say what I prefer. I guess the American thing in me would
too shallow of a show.
Exactly. I guess it would be un-American of me to say that I prefer a parliamentary system over a congressional democracy.
Not really un-American.
But you know what? Yeah, we weren't able to cover everything with parliament versus congressional democracies, but go and look it up. Go and look at it further, because it is really quite interesting to see the differences between the two, and there are very, very real pros and cons to each. I know that there's also a tyranny of the majority too aspect that comes into play with in many cases you could say both, but I know that's been a phrase more associated in some sense with a parliament system of government. So go and look that up. And I'm not saying that, again, one is better than the other necessarily, because they are very, very similar in a sense, because they revolve around the idea of democracy.
Still representative democracy.
Exactly.
In both cases.
Exactly. I think I've been pretty clear about the shut up and dribble discussion earlier. I think it's unfair to go ahead and say that individuals in this country, whether they be an athlete, movie star, politician, whatever, can't have a certain viewpoint on certain issues. I think it would be unfair to say Mitt Romney can't go and comment on the state of the Utah Utes football team just because he's a politician. Just like, it's unfair to say that LeBron can't have a take on the state of this country's politics just because of who he is. So,
okay,
nice.
My thoughts kind of echo these two fine gentlemen here with me. That is going to wrap up our first Empire Media Politics show. Promise we're going to have a name next time. Our next scheduled show is going to be the 13th of March, so it is in 3 weeks. So March 13th will be the next time we are doing this show live here Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock. So really excited for where this is going to go. Moving forward, we'll get topics out. We're going to try and get them out at least a week ahead of time. So if you want to do any reading, if you're going to listen live along with us, you can be right up on any issues you want to hear us talk about, and we'll also give ourselves time to also be as well read as we can. So for Josh, Adam, I am Dorf. We'll see you guys in 3 weeks. Thank you very much for joining us.